Perfect. Well, thanks everyone for coming. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know there's a couple people still entering the room, but I'd like to take this time to introduce Lisa, our speaker. So Lisa Shiroka is a graduate of Montclair State University, where she holds a degree in family child studies with a minor in child psychology. She's also a level 1 Reiki practitioner and a certified grief facilitator. Lisa has over 30 years experience working with children, adolescents, families, and professionals in and out of the healthcare system settings. She has also been a volunteer counselor as well as a part of the camp programming for Camp Happy Times, a week-long sleepaway camp for pediatric oncology patients in New Jersey for over 6 years. She's deeply passionate and brings a great deal of energy to the work that she does on behalf of the population she works with. So thank you, Lisa, for presenting on this topic, super relevant to our pediatric oncology camps. I'd also like to remind everyone that at the end of the session, there will be an exit poll, so be sure to stick around for that to provide COCA with some feedback on the session. So with that, Lisa, I'll hand it over to you and you can share your screen.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, handing off to Lisa. Okay.
Love you, Lisa.
Love you, Millie. So good to see familiar face. So I just want to say that I'm honored to be here. This is only my second conference, COCA conference. I went to the one in Niagara Falls. The content was amazing, as well as the location. And I'm just really happy to be asked to present. Just a little background, I was going to present some information about our virtual camp this year, but then I was asked would I consider presenting on grief. So it's a tough subject, but I think it's something that we all have to think about dealing with the population that we do in our camps. Oops. So now, MJ, am I good here?
So you're going to want to go to that Google Drive again.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
That's hard, guys.
All right, this one. Ah, right?
There you go.
Oh, did it. Okay. All right. Okay, so the objectives for today are to define and share the types of grief. I'm going to talk about the developmental age and how it affects one's understanding of grief. We're going to discuss how to deal with the grief in uncertain times, and that's the pandemic. And I would like to share some ways to cope and how you can engage in activities to help with the grief process. So grief is distress resulting from a loss. The loss can be any loss. It could be loss of life. It could be loss of self, divorce. You know, there's many different types of loss. For this particular purpose, we're going to talk about of life. It includes mental, physical, social, and emotional difficulties. Grief is fluid, which means it just comes and goes, and it is a natural reaction to losing somebody. It's both universal, meaning that people can experience it, but it's also personal, which means when they are experiencing it, they may experience it in a different way. Individual experiences, they vary, and it's usually based on the type of loss that you are experiencing. That usually affects the way you grieve. So to give a little background, Dr. Kubler-Ross was as an MD. She wrote the book, Death and Dying. It's basically in the grief world, the Bible for the basis of grief. And she talks about 5 stages. There are a few more than 5, but these are the main ones: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And what I do want to bring up is, although anxiety is not listed as one of the stages, many people may also experience anxiety as a result of grief and loss. And I see that a lot with patients that I work with. The anxiety sometimes is the first thing that comes out, and then afterwards, they'll go into one of these stages. These don't go in any order. A lot of times people are angry first, they feel depressed, they bargain, they deny. So these are interchangeable. So denial. In denial, the person may want to believe the change is happening or that a loss is taking place, but they may not even use the language of loss or grief. They may not use death. You know, a lot of people sometimes will say passed away, which any term that you feel comfortable using is fine. But sometimes the denial stage is one where, did this really happen? Like, did this, is this really true? You know, anger is obviously something that everyone, I can't imagine, would not experience. It's really realizing that the loss is real. A person may become angry at theirself. They may be angry at another person. It may result in blaming and, like, you know, why didn't you tell me she was that sick? Or I would have went and saw her. Or didn't you know? How could you not know? You're with her all the time. I'm so angry at you. So it's really like putting that on another person. Bargaining is the negotiating, you know, is this really true? If I, you know, for kids, this is really instrumental for young kids, because they're like, well, if I pray really hard and I do everything I'm supposed to do, then my friend will come back, right? Like they're bargaining. If I didn't wish this and I change and I say, you know, I'm going to give them my, you know, my stuffed animal, or I'm going to do everything for them, then maybe they'll come back. It's that bargaining piece. Depression. Depression is one word that I personally have a hard time with, because I think when somebody's sad, a lot of times people say they're depressed. So depression is very different than sadness. Sadness is, it's a feeling that has many different meanings, but depression, you might have low energy, low motivation. You might not get out of bed. You may not, nothing may bring you joy in your life. I always ask people, is there anything that brings you joy? After realizing there might not be anything, you can actually get yourself in a depressive state. But depression is, it's really not an interchangeable term. I like to say, you know, are you overwhelmingly sad? Tell me a little bit about where, you know, what you're doing. Are you getting up? Are you eating? Are you interacting? Because depression is one of those that I refer, you know, to somebody who may have to do medical management for that. I'm sorry. And acceptance, one may come to accept that a loss has occurred. It may manifest by disengaging themselves with the other person. I don't know that anybody necessarily accepts and moves on. I like to say move forward, because, you know, we live with these, there's a saying, if you love deeply, then you're going to grieve deeply, right? That's why you grieve, because you have these feelings for somebody who was a person in your life. These are the types of grief that you'll see. Acute grief. Acute grief is immediately after a loss, and this can go for months afterwards. It's normal to have intense feelings. You can have shock, you can have sadness, you can have poor appetite. You can be sleep deprived, maybe not concentrate. All of these symptoms will slowly diminish with the passing of time. Oh, sorry. Complicated grief is sometimes has the symptoms of acute grief, but they never seem to go away. So I'll give you an example of this. So somebody may have lost a loved one, And in their home, they have pictures everywhere. And they're grieving that. But right away, they want to go home after the funeral. They want to take all the pictures down. They want to box them up. They want to put them away because they don't want to get up in the middle of the night and have to see a picture of that person. So they're kind of trying to convince themselves. They know that they're grieving, but at the same time, they can't really cope with that grief. It's hard for them to accept that loss. So that's more of what complicated grief would be. And the last one is integrated. And those are really, the symptoms kind of combine acute grief and complicated grief. And you'll enter like a lifelong stage of integrated grief, meaning that at this point you've come to accept it. You've resumed your daily activities. That does not mean that you don't miss the person who died. But you may, around the holidays, you may think of the person, around an anniversary. This type of grief you would see from your campers. Integrated grief, where sometimes we'll go to camp and between, at least in ours in the summer, between 1 year and the next year, a camper will have passed away. And, you know, everybody does their best at communicating that. The camper may have went to the, you know, funeral, or maybe contacted the family, or maybe kind of expressed and had their sadness and their mourning, and kind of just put it in a compartment. Now we go fast forward a year, and now you're at camp, and now that person's not at camp. So now it's like you're grieving all over again, because, you know they're not gone, but a little bit of you, maybe, especially for the young kids, is like, well, maybe they are going to get off the bus, or maybe it really didn't happen, or it's going to bring up a feeling for them. They might be a bunkmate. They might have been in a talent show together. They may have, done something at camp together that reminds them of that person. And that's really the integrated grief, because it kind of sneaks up on you and comes back. Okay, I'm going to show a clip from Inside Out. This is like, one of the child life specialists, and I'm sure anybody who works with, these types of feelings, it's like our favorite go-to. So I just want you, we're going to discuss it afterwards, but I just want you to take a moment to think about this. So for those of you who do not know this, the yellow dress is Joy. You'll see Sadness, who will be in the blue. And this character here that looks like the elephant is called Bing Bong. Bing Bong is like an imaginary person of the girl Riley, who's in the film. Like when she's with Bing Bong, this stuffed toy, Bing Bong takes her to all these great places, and they do all these things that maybe she wouldn't do in real life. So I'm gonna just point this.
My rocket!
Can you hear it?
I was still using that rocket. It still has some song power left. Who's your friend who likes to play? No! Go to the moon!
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Bing Bong, look at this. Oh, here's a fun game. You point to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone forever.
Sadness, don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back to time, we had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness,
sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah.
I'm okay now. Come on. The train station is this way.
How did you do that?
Well, I don't know. I was sad, so I listened to what.
Hey, there's the train.
Okay. So, and I'm going to actually open the chat if that's okay. I got to see if, can I see it here? Where is it? So what was everybody's response to that clip? For them, how did it resonate with you? I don't think, I don't think I can see the. Okay, here we go. Grief is different for everyone. Yes. I think about how people like to distract from grief. Absolutely, Lisa. Very important to listen. Absolutely, Richard. You don't have to say anything really. Just be kind. Hugs work. Yes, Millie. So I think everybody has that same feeling. So in this clip, it's okay to feel sad, and sometimes we aren't comfortable with that. Yes, Sarah. I mean, that is the one statement. We, especially those that work with, it's important to be there and talk. Yes, it is. We work with children, adolescents, some with adults or going into adulthood. Our campers have gone through unimaginable things, things maybe a lot of us can't relate to personally, the medical piece of it, but they also are exposed, some at a very young age, to loss. And when somebody, when somebody is living with an illness and they are across from somebody who has the same illness and who's succumbed to the disease, that reality sometimes is so different. It's so hard to believe that, you know, I'm doing fine. I thought they were doing fine. You know, why, what happened? And I think a lot of times we run around when we see after we, especially like I was saying, a year after camp, and if somebody is not there because of death, we try to, you know, either overlook it or we try to not bring it up because we don't want to, you know, they're at camp and we want them to have a great time. And so we try to push down like Joy did in there, right? But what did sadness do? I mean, sadness basically just sat there, right? And just let Bing Bong have his feelings, and talked about remembering the person. And sadness was saying, wow, you know, you must really miss them. And wow, it sounds like you both had such a great time. That's okay. It's okay to talk about it. It's also okay to say, if you don't want to talk about it, I'm just going to sit here. I'm just going to sit here for a little, you know, we can go for a walk. Whatever you think will make you feel more comfortable, or we can go back to the bunk. We could sit on the front porch. We can color. We can do a lot of different things. And I'm going to talk about those things later on in the presentation. So I have a poll that I put. Thank you, MJ.
Yep, we'll go ahead and get that launched for y'all.
Right. So this poll is regarding a remembrance service at camp. So what I'm trying to just see is what camps have remembrance services. If you do have them, when is it usually held? And if you have the service, what percentage of the staff and campers attend the service? Like, would you say, guesstimate?
I'm gonna wait a few more seconds here to get in a last little bit of responses. Let everybody read through. Okay, getting up there. Okay,
This
about
is
10 more
amazing to me
seconds.
that you could do this.
Yeah, nice benefit of the virtual camps is that the poll's right there.
Real
Virtual
time.
conference. Mm.
All right. I'll go ahead and end it now, and then we can share the results.
Oh, okay. So majority, 90% have a remembrance service. If you do have a remembrance service, when is it held? This is always interesting to me. I thought first day, and again, I shouldn't assume, would be the day. Like you do it, you have the service, but this says another day during the week. And I just want to see if I could, oh, sorry, I can't see the bottom. If you have a service, what percentage?
Oh yeah, so 30, it was split, 30% said less than 50% and 30% said more than 50%, but most people with 40% said everybody.
Okay. Okay. So that's interesting to me because we at Camp Happy Times, we have, what leads you to believe that it would be held the first? Oh, what, Leanne, first day camp, I mean, first full day. So what leads me to believe that is because sometimes what'll happen is remembrance services will be done in the beginning to address the loss that happened, you know, from somebody who's not going to be at camp this year, and to kind of have a time, like a sacred time where you can go and grieve and participate if you choose to, and then from there move to the other activities. There's really no right or wrong way at all to do this, but in my experience, I've seen camps. It might not be the day they arrive; it might be the first full day, and a lot of times they'll do that like first thing, and that's why I thought that. But really, anytime, I mean, the fact that everybody has it, and I know we can say, well, yeah, we're, you know, that seems like something we would do. 90%, that's a lot. So at our camp, we have the fishing dock, and down by the fishing dock, there's an area that's like a memorial area. So a lot of the camp staff who have kind of either brought things for there, like a bench in memory of a loved one or memory of a camper or memory of a staff member. We have our directors, we have social work. I go, but I don't design that. I'm there more for as a support person, and we give the campers an option to participate. Most recently, there was the release of butterflies. Everybody got a butterfly, and at the end, they released the butterflies. And at the very, very end, not only is the purpose to grieve the camper, the purpose is that the campers can grieve anybody in their life that they lost, that they want to bring up and remember at that time. It's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful, you know, we say like we cry and we, you know, we just hug each other, but it's very cathartic. And sometimes the people, the campers you never would think come down are the ones that really get a tremendous amount out of it. So, okay. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the reactions based on age. So young children. So young children would be your youngest campers. So in our camp, they're called freshmen, maybe like 5, 6, like young, even younger than 5, but they're, you know, there's that age isn't at camp. They react to loss with confusion. They believe that they may have caused it. So that would go back to maybe like the person, I said something bad about the person when they were sick and now they went away and they're not going to come back. They may have sleep problems, or they may experience loss of appetite. They may show signs of separation anxiety. So wanting to be with a parent, or in a camp situation, wanting to be, I want to be with Megan. You know, I want to always be with Megan, you know, the camper that they feel close to, or, you know, I want to be with MJ, my, you know, she's my counselor. I want to be with her all the time out there. So they kind of latch on, and the signs usually disappear in time. But again, if it's acute, in that acute stage, then it's going to be more of that separation anxiety you're going to see. Then there's the school agers. The school agers are, they do a lot of denial, right? Like they try to avoid it, or they might maybe like, yeah, no, she's still sick. Like she didn't die. No, you must be thinking of somebody else. They go from that to beginning to develop the understanding that death is permanent. Again, I never say, like, if they say, where's my loved one? I always start off with, well, where do you believe they are? Right? There's different beliefs. If it's heaven, then they're going to say, well, they're in heaven. Of course. Don't you know they're in heaven? I'll say, oh, okay. They're in heaven. You know, I want to go there. It's like, you know, but it's not a physical place. Or they'll say, you know, they're with, and they'll tell you of a loved one they're with. So kind of go off of what they're saying. They may be preoccupied with like the practicalities surrounding the death. They may need to know the facts over and over again. Like, tell me again. Wait, she didn't go to school that day. What, who was with her? Her mom and dad were at her bed. What, her grandmother was with her? Wait. So, you know, and they'll go to different people to see if somebody gives them a different answer. It really helps them to feel safe, it allows them to begin the process to build trust in the adults around them. I am a huge supporter of involving kids when appropriate. When I mean appropriate, I mean just asking, you know, do you want to, you know, give something to the mom or the family member, or do you want to come to the wake and explain what it is, or the funeral? And they have an increased awareness of their own mortality. So that gives to the fears. Teenagers. Teenagers, they understand death is inevitable. They know it's going to happen. They know it's universal, and they know it's irreversible. The reaction could be complicated by the struggles of their adolescent years. They may talk at length about it, but seldom to those who are closest to them. Their peer groups tend to be of great importance. This goes back to, I remember when I worked in the hospital setting, when there was a teen that had a traumatic either event or was at end of life after an illness, like everybody would come. Like the whole football team would want to come. All the people, like, you know, did you know them? No, I kind of knew him, but I know such and such really well, and she knew him really well. There's that feeling of they need to surround themselves with their peers. They need to be able to grieve in that way. They need to be able to talk about the person. They need to go off on their own. They grieve very differently than younger children and differently than adults. So often they have their own, you know, their own views as to what's right or wrong. And they'll challenge people's beliefs. Like they'll offer their own explanations for it, and they'll speak for themselves. But we see that a lot. And I think we see that too in camp, just in general, right? With the teens, you know, they like to, you know, if they're not in the same bunk, they're like, well, I'm 14. You know, she just turned 14. Why is she in that? Why is she a junior and I'm a sophomore? And, you know, it's that depending when you turn 14, and, you know, they feel like they want to get more freedom. So they want to like kind of age out of something. So I just want to pause for a second. I don't know if there's any questions leading up to this piece. I don't know, Lisa, if you see any. Every time I go to the chat thing, I kind of set off my presentation, but.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there was just a comment earlier about how one group does their activity. They split theirs, and they have the first full day of camp where they do lanterns or ribbons on a tree that they plant every year.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. That's great. So that's interesting, splitting it. So I'm wondering, do you split it because of age, or is it some other reason?
Yeah. Heather, did you want to expand on that?
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
We do more like of a quick, sorry, my son. We do a quick activity, like more of a prepping activity before the actual ceremony that we do.
Oh,
Such
great.
as like we'll do drawing on the lanterns. If we're doing lanterns, we'll do drawings on the lanterns and talk. The kids will talk among themselves in their sorry, he's a little distracting.
Okay.
In their cabins, and then they we all get together later at night or the next day, and we always plant a tree every year. We have always planted a tree, and everybody goes around and takes a handful of dirt or a piece of whatever they were working on and put it in the dirt.
That's great.
Tree. Yeah.
That's great.
My dad did not know what.
I'd love to hear other people and what they do.
Yeah.
And, and again, I think it really also depends on your camp, and it depends on how, things start a certain way. They tend to evolve, and people come with some really great ideas.
Yeah. We keep changing it every year, but we always do a tree.
Okay, that's great. And then there's another comment. We do our remembrance during our childhood cancer event, a rodeo. We have a memory bench. Oh yes, we have that. And we also do a special feature in our logbooks during the year that we may have a child pass. Oh, okay. Very good. It's great to hear these ideas. So this year was very different, and I want to talk a little bit very briefly, and then I want to go into like the activities of grief in uncertain times. So the pandemic with it causes grief, all kinds of grief. Sorry. Gosh, every time I touch this, it goes, I'm sorry. There's many losses associated with this time. So this can be loss of control, right? We have no control. Sometimes, I mean, in New Jersey, we were in lockdown for quite a few months in the beginning. There's loss of routine. There's loss of seeing family and friends. COVID-19, it may rob you of the physical presence of loved ones as you grieve. In other words, somebody who possibly died during a time at COVID, and there may be special requirements to go to a wake, no more than 10 people, only family, you can't have a service, you have to wear masks, but you still can maintain an emotional connection to people who will support you during the time. So the coronavirus pandemic is causing people to grapple with multiple types of grief, including anticipatory grief. And by that, I mean, like, the anticipatory grief would be, did you hear such and such got COVID? I saw her, 2 weeks ago. I wasn't close to her, but then what if something happens to me, or somebody's older, or somebody has like this immune suppressed, and I don't want to get anything. I don't want to give anything. So there's that anticipatory grief that this could really happen. So what I did here was I wanted to do a little bit about ways to cope through memory making. So I actually have a private practice as a child life specialist. And what I do when I see clients or, come in, we talk about ways that we can cope by doing something. Some people are okay with talking, grieving. Everybody grieves differently. There's no right or wrong way, but sometimes people want tangible, especially like kids and adolescents. They may want tangible things. So a couple different things that I do is I create a memory box. And you probably can't even see it, but I'm going to try to show you it. So this is a memory box. And what I like to do is I like to give it could be plain white, it could be a color. This one happens to have a butterfly. I like to give them stickers and all different types of art materials to cut out words and anything that reminds them of the person who died, and put that all over the box. And then it becomes a place to hold the memories. And the idea is that you can go into that memory box at any time, and something in there that you hold dear to you will be in there. So if it's camp, it could be something from camp. It could be a t-shirt from that year. It could be something they made at arts and crafts. It could be anything. It could be, recipe from cooking that they did together. All those things can be in there. The other thing is a memory jar. And this kind of goes, this is a little bit different. This one was done by an adolescent, so it's very fancy. You see that? And in here, what we have are pieces of paper. And those pieces of paper look like this. And the idea is to write down memories on the strips of paper and put those in the jar. And when you're feeling down, or you're feeling like, I hear a lot of people say, I never want to forget him or her. What if I forget? This is something that can keep that legacy going, because it's in here. And a lot of times people want to do it because they want to feel it again. And other times they want to do it because they want to laugh about it, like, funny things. You can write a goodbye letter to the deceased to help with closure. You can gather with other family and friends who are also grieving, tell stories at special times. That happens at the remembrance service at camp where we are, but you can also do it virtually on Zoom. And this year, I do have to say that our director and our social worker and all the people who put the time into it, I know Millie and Matt and Ellen, our social worker, they really put a lot of time into making this still feel like it would at camp. So we were on Zoom. There was a time when you went on, there was some readings done, there was a lot of sharing done. So I think that's really important in this pandemic and in these virtual times. I mean, I'm blown away by the things that camps have been doing. These sessions I've gone to. So this is another piece of that. Also, writing things down in a journal is good as well. This, I think somebody just mentioned this, designate a special candle or lantern that you can light to remember the loved one. Take a day to go to the beach or the lake, go down to the fishing dock, remember the person, tie messages to balloons. I know that's not really, we don't want the balloon to break and then it's going to, cause issues, but people do it still. Or somebody had mentioned paper lanterns and release them into the sky. That's really wonderful because they disintegrate. And when you do it at dusk, or like in the evening, it's just beautiful. This is an example of, what is it that you want to say that you may not have had a chance to. I find that when people don't get a chance, especially kids, to say goodbye, and we'll say, well, what did you want to say? Or what do you want to do? Or it's really hard sometimes to gather your thoughts and really do it justice that you would want to really remember the person. This is a really good prompt template that you can use. Dear blank, I remember a time and it was fun when, I wish I feel, I hope. And I think the great thing about this is, at the very end, it says, thank you for, and you can use that. The other thing is I call these memory bubbles, memory thoughts. So these, you would write down your favorite memories of the person that's no longer there, and why each memory might be special to you. I've also seen people do it where they have pictures with the person who died and they glue the pictures in there. And that's really nice because it almost comes like a memento, like it has something. And I don't even know, sometimes these things, somebody mentioned you put it like in a book, in a scrapbook, and you kind of have these, you know, it's really what you feel comfortable doing. I want to just, did we have, wait, oops. I can't see the chat box, but I don't know, Lisa, was there anything in the chat box? I saw a couple on, I just wanted to address it before I moved on.
Yeah, so there's you know, a few more people kind of sharing what they do. Let me go to the top here. Someone makes stepping stones that we leave at camp for each child who we've lost. Each camper puts a different jewel in the stepping stone. And I mentioned how Camp Delight has done that as well, but because we rent our space, we have given them to the bereaved family. Daryl says we're starting to look at different ways to incorporate memorialization into our programming. In our history, camp and grief and loss have been kept separate. Someone said they found a great book this year called The Invisible String.
Oh, that's a great book. I was going to show you that as well. Yeah, that's a great book, The Invisible
I haven't
String.
heard of that one. Some others have a memorial bench, a memorial garden. Yeah, those kind of ideas have been shared.
So The Invisible String is a really great book. It talks about a parent who they lost a loved one, and they talk about how, well, it actually can be for school, it could be for any type of separation, where they do an imaginary string that you tie onto the person who is gone in your, you know, your imaginary, and one to you. And that no matter where you go, you're always connected. So it's a really good story about staying connected, that even if somebody moves, the house itself is not going to move with you, but the memories and that person is they're going to move with you in your heart, in your head. That's always going to go with you. So I think The Invisible String is a really good one. There's also The Kissing Hand, where if you kiss your hand and somebody kisses theirs, that you always have that bond. And there's a lot of bibliotherapy books that are really good and really talk about that. But managing feelings is really the biggest part of grief. There is no one right way or normal way that a child or an adolescent adult is meant to experience their grief. There's no one right way for you to offer support. I can remember going to a wake, and I went with somebody who had not gone to many wakes. And they said to me, I'm going to go behind you because, like, you know what to say. Like, you know, I'm going to go with you, and, you know, you know this stuff. And I'm like, I don't really know, but I speak from the heart, and that's really all you can do. I'm sad with you. I have no words, you know, it's devastating to think that we're here, but I want you to know that I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of the person. And, you know, I think that's why the pandemic is so hard, because there's not a lot of people who get that hugging, and, you know, we're huggers. So it's hard. But the experience of sadness and longing at the death of a loved one, while it's painful, is in fact essential for coping. There's no time to it. Nobody has to be pushed. But as much as we want to protect somebody, and we want to protect our campers, we want to protect our staff and our families and our kids from the pain, it's really impossible to do. And it's really not advisable. I mean, experiencing these emotions is one of the most important things that children and all of us need to do when a loved one dies. I mean, it's hard to see, but it's cathartic, you know. And as I said, you know, campers and staff will come up at the remembrance service and talk about somebody who, Uncle Joe, who nobody knew, who they never got to grieve and they want to just remember Uncle Joe today, and everybody backs them and says, you know, we're here with you. So I think it's really important to work that in. I'm going to leave this for questions. What I was thinking was, and I don't know how to do this, but I don't know if we go back to the, like where everybody is, like the judge hit exit or, okay. Thank God for MJ and Lisa. I am not, Millie, you think I'm a little better than you technology wise, but not, you know, it's hard. So I just wanted, no, but I'll talk to Lisa. What is this? Do you ever make these at camp as an activity surrounding Memorial Park? No, but this is what we're going to do, Millie. We're going to do this. I think it's great. I think I love when the person said that they had some time to do things before the service. You know, I envision you going down into arts and crafts and maybe have a few things available. And then the kids and the you know, the LITs, the staff, the counselors, I envision them being able to have something. And even if they don't want to go down to the actual service, maybe at some point during that week in camp, they're just going to go down there and put something there, right? And just, it's, you know, having a designated place is really nice. Our camp also does the rents, we're only there for a week. So it's, you know, but there is that memorial place stays, that area down by the fishing dock. But I do think that there are ways that you can do something where you take it. So in other words, if it's a letter or something, it can almost go in, you know, some type of a binder or some type of, you know, like a box that maybe people are just going to put in something about the person. And maybe, like, I think Lisa, you might've mentioned it, give it to the family, or, you know, that's a really nice thing. And, you know, camp is what these kids, we all talk about what they miss. So sorry about that. So I wanted to just open it up for any questions. And I also wanted to, I love this. Are we going to be able to capture the chat? Oh, good. Awesome. That's great. Because people have such great ideas, you know, with I think the garden, the books. I could also provide a list if anybody wants of books, some books to be used. Oh, yes, stepping stones. Oh, Knuckles. Oh, you're going to have that again, right? And I think that's, you know, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but, you know, I don't know much about all the camps, but you know, my heart goes out to your camp. That's a loss. That's huge, right? There's memories. There's so many memories there, and they're going to come with you, but it's a rebuilding process. So I would think that there's a lot for you, for your campers, for your staff that's connected to that space. And, you know, what is another space going to look like? So, so yeah, I think all those ideas and the painting the rocks, that was something I think we did too. You could put rocks around there. I know arts and crafts always has like such great things. And I think the hardest thing is to make it available to everybody, because not everybody wants to go to the service. So there are, and not every counselor feels that they want to go. So there's a choice of who's going to stay back, especially if in your bunk, like with the 2 or 3 counselors, like who wants to go, who wants to stay back. And, you know, the camps do a really nice job of kind of deciding that ahead of time. So that there are people that don't feel that they have to go. Oh, hit the 3 dots. Oh. Huh, look at that. So I think that at the moment, I think it's people might feel on the spot, but I have my co-counselors and I have had chats like I went to that really great session before for cabin chats. I mean, you know, if they want to talk about it, then it's worth having availability, somebody available for them. So,
One of the things we did this year, because it was virtual and we weren't able to have our usual thing where we call our service reflections, and we use it as a time to talk about what camp means to you as well. So it's like, you know, it's talking about anything that's unique about our camp, right? So whether that's people that are no longer at camp with us, whether it's, you know, sharing how special camp is to you, that sort of thing. We do that around a campfire. So this year we used, it's called Google Jamboard, and it's essentially like a whiteboard online, and then all the kids could type in things or draw pictures onto that screen as a group. So then it made like a collective like poster for our reflections.
Oh, that's really nice. I'm also trained. I don't know if anybody has heard of Wonders and Worries. If you're in the Houston area, it's a program. It's a training program to become a provider, and you you get trained to work with the kids who are not necessarily the patient with cancer, but they have a loved one who has cancer. And they do, when you walk in their area, they have like a, similar to what you're saying, Lisa, almost like a bulletin board. And everybody does, there's a tree, and everybody puts a leaf on the tree, like just to remember. And it's more symbolic than anything. But yeah, there's a lot of those types of ways to remember. Trying to think if there's
Rachel said that they've started getting a tile with a handprint on it from each new camper, with the hope they will give it to their parents during their graduation, but they also give it to bereaved parents as well.
Oh, I love that. Wow. So when the first time they're the camper, then that's when they'll make the tile?
Yeah, so anytime it's a new, we have our patient campers and sibling campers at the same week. So I don't actually do it for the sibling campers, but we do it for, because they don't technically graduate. But we do it for the patient campers if the year that they're new, which sometimes is when they're 4 years old. And sometimes, you know, obviously depends on when they first start coming to camp. But then at their graduation, it's a gift that we give to the parents, because we give the graduates a gift also. But then if they happen to pass away before graduation, then we have something that we can give to the parents from camp. And I work with just a local, like a ceramic painting place where, you know, you can go in and pick like the cat or whatever. And so they do everything. They give me the paint, they give me the tiles, we get the handprint, and then we take it back and they glaze it and fire it and give them back to us. And then we just store them until we give them back to the family.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great like memento to have of the, you know, the time there. Yeah, because I know we do a graduation and they get things, but that's something that that they have from the day they start it all the way through. We have a school in our area. They give in kindergarten, the kids make an apple with their name on it, and like it's fits over their head. And they get the apple back at graduation. So it's, you know, and it's written on the back and stuff. And what I'm thinking of is that tile is something that I think would be just as, maybe even more so, comforting for the family to have too. That's great.
And Joseph Young said that at their sibling camp, they were about to start a new tradition last year. They bought an artificial tree, and the plan was to have the kids decorate ornaments and have it up all weekend, and then it would be taken down and put back up next year with the prior year's decorations. The decorating will be done by staff during orientation before the kids come. So then when they come up, they'll see the tree and visit it throughout the weekend. And through the years, we'd mix the decorations and ornaments, so it would be like a living time capsule. Something they were going to implement last year, but still plan to move forward with that idea.
Great. I think that's, I mean, all these ideas are, I mean, they're really endless, right? And even getting the ideas from the campers, you know, I think that really puts a connect to the person. What do you think they would like, right? Or maybe our bunk, if it's somebody from a bunk, and they might say, maybe we'll make something from the bunk and we'll go put it down there at the remembrance area. And it'll be from, you know, the sophomores, cabin 12. and everybody will write something and put it there. And then that also can go to the family. So there's, we don't like to think of some of these things, but I saw there was even palliative care sessions during this. And I think it's so important that we, we share these ideas, because I'm looking at these and I mean, they're great. There's so many different ideas here. So I'm also getting some nice responses from all the child life specialists. They want to connect. I'm in. Reach out on that message board. Hopefully I'll know how to figure it out. I would love to be able to talk to everybody, but it's really been an honor to present. I mean, the things that you all do at your camps, it's just amazing. And this kind of a space it's so like protected, and it feels so good to present because I feel like everybody's relating to it. And